And we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Fplhintslive deadline stream on a Thursday night because of the Friday night game. As always, I'll look at the game week that's gone, as well as previewing the game week ahead. So, without further ado, let's get straight into it. So, I'll go straight into my points for game week 10. So, thankfully, I managed to buck the trend of red arrows by scoring 13 points above the average, 71 points. So, with all things considered, I'm fairly content with that because I was at a point where my rank was 156k before the postponements kicked in, and then sold Saliba for Emerson, which didn't work out. That pushed me further back, and then completely missed the memo on Foden, Gerard Bowen, and who else was it? Madison as well. So completely got wrong-footed, unfortunately. And in some ways, I'm playing catch up because I haven't used my wild card either. I've not even made that many transfers. I think I've made 7 transfers going into game week 10. So it really was a case of trying to circumvent the status quo. So going straight into the points, Edison, 6 points. It's nothing special, but then scored the same amount as Kevin De Bruyne, who is significantly more owned than him. And then you've got Foden, who got a double-digit haul for game week 10. And in his instance, he's owned by far fewer managers. So the problem I've had is I've not been able to jump on De Bruyne because I had Edison in my team. So I've got the triple City triple lock already, which I'm stuck with. And whereas others who've been able to recalibrate their teams with a game week 7 or game week 8 wildcard, I've kind of been stuck with Edison. And yeah, it's worked to some degree as well because I've got points. But then I'd say there's been 2 or 3 games where he really should have kept a clean sheet and he blanked, unfortunately. So, 6 points against Southampton. I guess that's the bare minimum that I could have asked for from him. And then, yeah, going on to the defenders now for game week 10, just so disappointing with James. I know that, there was so much promise in that match for Chelsea on the Saturday and then just got the 1 point cameo, unfortunately. I'm absolutely convinced that had he started that match, that he would have got at least a goal or an assist without a shadow of a doubt. So, yeah, disappointing, but then he's he's highly owned and take it on the chin. And then to make matters worse, Champions League match, he's got that yellow flag hovering over his head now. So it remains to be seen if he's going to even start in game week 11. Cancelo, 18 points, but then then again everyone owns him. Perisic with a 1-pointer, again just coming off the bench. I'm just trying to refresh my mind. Yeah, well, he did come off the bench with 10 minutes. It's just with him, he's just been a complete frustration. I actually sold Trent Alexander for Perisic in the hope that I could unlock some funds, spread funds elsewhere. But yeah, Perisic has been a unmitigating disaster for my team today. And then you've got Trippier, who's been plodding along with his 7 points. I believe it's now 7 fancy returns in 9 games in the Premier League this season, an absolute budget sensation. And with him, of course, he's on set pieces. He's got that threat as well. I think he's fantastic value for money, considering, is he Newcastle's talisman? Obviously, from a non-FPL perspective, you can say, Bruno Guimaraes has a certain presence about himself as well. But then obviously with him, sometimes his role can not be FPL friendly, so to speak. Obviously wasn't the case last weekend. But with Trippier, you've got that peace of mind that Newcastle's defence has improved since Eddie Howe's taken over and the summer signings. And yeah, those points are just ticking along, and that's fantastic value for money. And coming on to the midfield, I'm not going to come on to Mohamed Salah just now. I'll work in reverse. So Andreas Pereira was actually my sub 1, in the hope that Mitrovic would start in this match. who did Fulham play? I've completely forgotten now. It was West Ham. So Europa League legs, you thought maybe there's an opportunity there, but then obviously there was fitness issues with Mitrovic, and thankfully he wasn't even fit enough to make the bench for a cameo appearance. And Andreas Pereira subbed on. It was a bit annoying that he got a yellow card as well. Probably dented his chances to get like bonus points, but 6 points for a sub one. And I believe that was a difference between me having a red arrow and a green arrow in game week 10. So, points like that, it's worth their weight in gold. Coming on to Maddison, who I was eyeing up as a potential transfer. I feel that, he is Leicester's talisman. Is he going to have an England call up for the World Cup? It doesn't seem like he's in, Southgate's plans, but then if he's plugging away with attacking returns, with all the attacking returns he's had since the start of last season, he's definitely in with a reckoning from an objective point of view. But again, very disappointing. Just a 1 point, 1 point altogether against Bournemouth with a yellow card to make matters worse. Martinelli, I wasn't really expecting him to get a double-digit haul against Liverpool, and look, a goal, assist, 2 bonus points. His EO, he's not. I thought his EO would be higher, like 80 to 90% plus among the elite 1,000, but I think it's in the 70s. So that provided me some traction in my rank tier as well. And then Mohamed Salah, I've just held on to him for far too long. In fairness, I've not been captaining him week in, week out. I recognised that he was no longer the perma captain, a fairly long time ago. I'd say I was slightly, probably one game week ahead of the curve. It was a hat trick after, who was it? Palace. I think the Nottingham Forest hat trick, where there was almost like there wasn't like unanimity on giving Haaland the armband. So by then, I'd recognised he wasn't deserving of the armband. He'd lost his perma-captain status. But I felt against Arsenal, he had a good record in terms of goals and assists against Arsenal. So I thought, you know what, I'll give him the chance, one final chance. And then, massive disappointment. He got subbed off early. Didn't really see much from him. And the frustration I've had with him is, and people say this, the experts will say it, that why have Salah and Haaland if you can only captain one of them? And I guess they do have a point. The fact is, Mohamed Salah has been horrendously out of form since AFCON, and then just to make matters worse from an FPL perspective, he he scores a hat trick in the Champions League, albeit against Rangers. So that's kind of put a spanner in the works for me, but it's food for thought as well. And then coming on to my strikers, Haaland, he had ridiculously high EO, 190% among the elite 1,000, 198%, I beg your pardon, over 200% among the top 10k, and thankfully he only scored one goal from the radio test that I was doing, the air test on the Saturday. I kind of feel that he could have got easily a double-digit haul there. So those that triple captained him probably didn't get the best, but hey, he didn't blank. But right now everyone's captaining him. Doesn't really matter what he gets. So 12 points is what it is. And with Jesus against Liverpool, like just got an assist, but and it was some people questioned the penalty, but I can't really complain. 5 points for him. And then looking at the bench, Ward 1 point, Mitrovic didn't play, De Silva 1 point, Emerson 1 point. It's very clear that I need to radically recalibrate my team. I really do need to shift some of these players out. Some of these players have had double price drops. I should have sold them a long time ago, but I don't play FPL for like team value necessarily. For me, it's really about opportunities to score, and it's about getting bang for your buck, and also it's about ensuring that I fight the fires in my team as well. I'm not always in a position to make a luxury move. Having said that, I only made one transfer in game week 10, so I'm in a position now where I've got two free transfers going into game week 11, and then game week 12, which is a midweek game week, there's going to be inevitably a fair amount of rotation there as well. So it'll be interesting to see, what can be done there. And there was a poll that I put out actually a few days back, which basically asked people what is it that they'll be doing for game week 12. I'm going to bring that poll up and I'll discuss the results from there. I'm going to hint actually. I don't want to give away. Well, I guess I will. I won't say I'm going to commit to this idea just yet, but I'm going to look at it as an opportunity, basically. Um, and just looking at some of these comments here on Twitter as well. Not on Twitter, on YouTube. Let me just have a quick look here as well. So one moment. It's just get the banner up as well. So just a few comments. Great. And yeah, just for anyone who's got questions, I'll address them during the later half of the stream, and I'll follow up on any comments then as well. But this poll that I did a few days ago, because I kind of feel that a lot of people are on this artificial high where they have used their wild card, they've got triple Arsenal, triple Man City. What on earth are they going to do for game week 12? Because inevitably, a lot of managers are going to have to take hits. It's really a question of, is it going to be a -4, -8? I found the poll. Let me just get this up, and I'll share my screen as well for that. So yeah, just get this up, and I'll discuss these options. So I'll stop sharing my current screen, and I'll flick straight to the poll. There we go. So the question I posed was, what are your plans for blank game week 12 with no Arsenal or City assets? So the options I gave were take the hits, ride the wave, use the free hit, wildcard, not sure, something else. So the vast majority of managers, who I'm assuming a significant chunk of them, have used their wildcard, they're going to have to ride the wave. They're going to have to do a -4, even a -8 in some cases for blank game week 12. And the frustration for them is that there'll inevitably be rotation in blank game week 12 as well, because it's a midweek game week. So it's a question of, for them, that they'd want to hope to, have it be in a place where it's a bad game. It's a good game week to have a bad game week, essentially. But yeah, that, like, what, 6 out of 10 say that a hit is inevitable, and then you've got a significant minority who are contemplating a free hit. And in those instances, I would say that anyone who's looking to do a free hit has probably, wants to maintain their momentum. They might have a high overall rank. I recall 2 years ago, I had a really good start to the season, and unfortunately, COVID hit the Newcastle United team. It was game week 9, if I'm not mistaken, and my team was not looking great for that game week. And just randomly, I decided to free hit, and I free hit in that game week because I felt that if I didn't, I would score less points and I would fall back, and I wanted to maintain that momentum. And I used the free hit in that game week 9, and paradoxically, I think I got a red arrow, but I would have scored far less if I didn't use the free hit. So yeah, there's no like rule that, oh, you must use a free hit in a double game week or later in the season. Sometimes if you want to maintain momentum, it makes total sense to use it at a specific time. So I see the logic behind that. And then you've got the people, and it's a very small minority, who are contemplating using the wild card. And I have to be honest with you, I am in that very small minority. And it's very unorthodox as well, because we've already mentioned no Arsenal, no City assets. There's a high risk of rotation. But like, in all honesty, for those that have the wild card, as I have, the only real windows to wildcard are 12 and 13. I kind of feel 14, 15, 16, well, what's the point? It's just too late then. So because I lost out 2 game weeks back as a result of, it was blank game week 8, I believe, and then yeah, game week 9 didn't have like Bowen, Foden, and Madison, lost out there as well. I really want to strike with a iron hammer. I really want to attack blank game week 12. And the only way I can really do that is by using the wildcard. And the question I asked myself is, can I construct a team that avoids the risk of rotation in blank game week 12, but also I've got like the core Arsenal City assets on the bench who obviously won't sub on, but the gamble is have 11 starters who I want for 4, 5, 6 game weeks before the World Cup kicks in, and then the Arsenal players. Like for me, the ring fence players for me at the moment from Arsenal and City are Haaland. Can't really sell him. I'd lose a bit of value. Yeah, and I'm going to buy him back. No, so he'll be a sub. He'll be a sub. Cancelo, want to keep him as well because of his attacking prowess. Money tied in him as well. Martinelli, money tied in him, and I would want to definitely use him in Arsenal's upcoming games. The one Arsenal player that I do have that I'm willing to sell is Jesus because I wouldn't really lose team value in him. I kind of feel that if I shifted him out for, let's say, an Ivan Toney, I'd unlock funds and spread that money elsewhere. And with Jesus, he has been okay. He scored the hat trick earlier in the season, plodding along with a few fantasy attacking returns. And I know his EO is very high still, but that's a risk I'm willing to take. And if he bangs in the subsequent game week after the blank, then I can try and get him in, and the value would still be relative because it hasn't really it went up and then it went down. And then the other Man City player that I do have is Edison, who I've held him on for far too long. Yeah, he's done a job for me, and I think his points per million are still reasonable, but I've got to get rid of him. The fact is, Foden and De Bruyne have been absolutely electric, and my plan would essentially be to have 2 City assets and then be in a position where I can get in Foden or De Bruyne in game week 13, and have a placeholder for game week 12 essentially in their place instead. So for me, it's about if I don't take a hit in game week 12, blank game week 12, there's an opportunity to score points and hopefully use that as a platform to jettison up the ranks. I've not really had like let me just go to my game week history for a moment, really quickly. So I started the season, one moment, and I've not talked about the fourth option, I beg your pardon, which is not sure something else. So there's a large minority of FPL managers who still don't know what on earth they're going to do, and I think some of them will probably end up taking a hit and panicking, but that is what it is. So let me should I share my screen? I think I will share my screen for this. Let me just get it in the right frame. I hate the fact that the game week history, they flipped it upside down for some reason, which isn't like user friendly, and it's a bit annoying as well. But let's share my screen for that. So game week 1, I started 742k, and then I had a massive rank boost in game week 2, going up to 200 and am I reading that right? Just to make sure I am. 220k in game week 2, then had the red arrow in game week 3, green arrow in game week 4, and then I believe game week 5 was when I captained Haaland against Forest, 90 points. I think Salah actually got some points in that game week as well. So game week 5 was like a massive rank boost, 109k, and I believe like I'm not inside the top 100k, but that was like for what I think a 6th consecutive season where early on I've got to that 100k mark relatively early, and I was hoping to capitalize on that momentum. Game week 6, 157k. Small red arrow. Obviously, game week 7 postponements, and then here's where it kind of just fell off, unfortunately. Where game week 8 sold Saliba, and then he bangs in with a goal and a clean sheet against Brentford, which I wasn't expecting. And I sold Saliba because of the fixtures were getting trickier, and I just thought they'd get less clean sheets, and that didn't work. So my rank doubled, which was really annoying, especially going into an international break. And coming on to game week 9, 80 points in a red arrow just seems crazy, for want of a better word. But the frustration I had was Ederson, who conceded, and then Danny Ward randomly gets a clean sheet and 2 bonus points. Was it 2 was it? No, it was 1 save and 1 bonus point. So lost points on the bench from him. So what should have been a small green arrow, and then Maddison went nuts on Monday night as well. My rank, I think at that point I was on for like a 20k rise, and then fell back massively. Didn't own Maddison and benched Danny Ward, and coming into onto game week 10, 50k rise, which I'm basically back at my game week 8 rank now. So I really want to push and hope that by game week 12, game week 13, I can hit those 100k rank tiers. Well, that 100k rank tier once again. Anything other than that would basically be a disaster. So for me, it's about do something that others aren't able to do, and is attack blank game week 12. And I have to use a wild card. And there are players that I've considered getting in as well. Like, I guess I can chuck out some names: Wilfred Zaha, Ivan Toney. From the goalkeepers, I know that Palace haven't been keeping a lot of clean sheets, but there's definitely an opportunity with at least one Palace defensive asset, the goalkeeper Gator, getting him in potentially to unlock some funds as well. I'm just going here for one moment on my phone so that it'll be quicker for me to look at some of these options. Um, Harry Kane and or one of them potentially getting them in as well would make sense. Looking at Spurs' fixtures: Everton, United, Newcastle, Bournemouth. Okay, the Liverpool one's a bit tricky, but is it tricky if they're conceding goals? Probably not. And then Leeds at home. I definitely want one attacking Spurs asset for those run of games. Absolutely. Perisic, I just want to get rid of him. It's just frustrating if he's just coming on for a sub. Okay, he'll probably bang in a double-digit haul. And the annoying thing I had was when I didn't own him, he was getting subbed on and then getting a random assist, or he'd start and get like a goal and a clean sheet or something. But he's not worth it if he's just getting subbed on for a cameo appearance. And I look at the defensive options that are available other than Perisic that I don't have. And okay, Saliba at 5.1 million, I can't get him in right now, but after the blank, good run of games. Um, who else is there? There aren't a huge amount of defensive assets, in fairness. I could potentially just go to the super budget options. I don't really, like I said, I don't want to double up on like Palace defense, but like if I don't get their goalkeeper, then getting in one of their defenders would make sense potentially for me. Who else? I've not really thought this through. Who else have I got here? In fact, let me just sort this out by clean sheets. But Wilfred Zaha definitely an option for me. I mean, top for clean sheets. Arsenal, City players, of course. I've already got Trippier for Newcastle. Surprisingly, I didn't that this has surprised me. There's Bournemouth 3 clean sheets, and I mean the fixtures they have look quite generous, but I'm not going to get a Bournemouth defender. Absolutely not. Definitely not one as a starter. But I think there is a real opportunity here to use the wild card and get that jump start. But then I would hope that, well, the risk I have is, well, first and foremost, in game week 11, I've got 2 free transfers. Do I sell Mohamed Salah? That is a question that I've been mulling over. I am late to the party now. I had him when his EO was 150 odd percent at the start of the season, and what is it now? It's barely 10% in some ranked tiers. So that's something that I'm really going to have to contemplate. The hat trick against Rangers was annoying, but then I'm looking at like for like option, sell Salah, get Son in. That I think that would make perfect sense, or would it? I'm not sure, but the Salah conundrum. I think the reality is that I could sell him. He'll bang in a hat trick against City if that even happens. But his EO is so low, it wouldn't really be detrimental to my rank. So the upside in selling Mohamed Salah just makes so much sense, in my opinion. But it's a case of who is it that I'm ultimately going to be getting in. And yeah, let me know in the comments as well, or in the live chat on what options appeal to you in game week 12. Sorry, game week 11, blank game week 12 and beyond. It'll be interesting to see what you're contemplating there. But for me, it's about buying some differentials. There's one player that's really caught my eye actually. Aston Villa is Ashley Young. I think Ashley Young has quietly got 24 points in the last 3 games for Aston Villa in FPL. And again, I'm not sure how like with Lucas Dina how long he's out for. But if the fact Ashley Young is quietly scoring these points, I think is definitely makes him interesting. And like I've said to you, that I'm looking at the premium defenders. Obviously, there's no Trent for a couple of weeks, so he's out of the window. I don't even have him at the moment. If James is injured, if there is no positive news by tomorrow, one move that I'm looking to do, and I think a lot of people will make this move, is get Chilwell in to their teams, which kind of makes perfect sense. And before I continue, I have to say this. If you're able to like, comment, share, or subscribe, I'd really appreciate that. I've come to realize that there is a way to do YouTube. Unfortunately, you have to know how the algorithm works, and yeah, if you're able to do one of those things that are on screen there, I'd really appreciate that, and spread the word. Go to Twitter and retweet my YouTube link as well, just to spread the word. And I'm just looking at my messages. I've got some questions that have already come in. Just give me one moment. And I've got my space link open. Well, I've got my Twitter space open as well, but I've got that on mute. I'm just talking through the YouTube stream. So yeah, they're not. I see there's quite a few people in there. There's more people on the Twitter space than there is on the actual YouTube stream. But I don't think they've got the memo. Maybe they just enjoy listening to an empty space. Oh dear. But there is something else I do want to talk about actually before I go into the questions. And in fact, I was going to talk about Mohamed Salah. Let me get Mohamed Salah up actually. So just give me one moment. Stop sharing my screen. Where are you, Mohamed Salah? There you are. So a few weeks back, it was actually more than a few weeks back, I was going to make this video about Mohamed Salah and how he's basically declining as an FPL asset. And I was kind of reluctant to make that video because I was waiting at any moment he's just going to jump the corner and bang in a hat trick, which he ultimately has done last night. But I just want to show you some stats actually, FPL stats, just to show you that he is past his peak. And these aren't like complicated stats. This isn't stuff that is rocket science, but I do want to share it. I think it's quite important for us to contextualize that he's no longer the same player. So obviously, looking at the screen there for Mohamed Salah's FPL stats, I mean the Chelsea seasons, you can completely forget them. He hardly played, and yeah, let's ignore them. So let's go up. So peak Mohamed Salah was the 2017-2018 season. That's when he broke the FPL record for the most number of points. His starting price was 9 million, finished at 10.6 million. So you were getting bang for buck with Mohamed Salah if you bought him early, and if you basically got the vast majority of those 44 attacking fancy returns. So he set the bar really high, and I kind of feel that there are elite 1000 managers to this day that owe Mohamed Salah their elite 1000 ranking because they basically hopped on him early and he basically became the perma captain. We talk about Haaland as the perma captain in FPL at the moment, But if we back project now for the past few seasons, if we're being perfectly honest, because Mohamed Salah essentially broke FPL, he became the perma captain for a significant chunk of those previous seasons. Okay, there were other options in that time frame as well. You still had an Eden Hazard, you still had a Sergio Aguero, I think Alexis Sanchez at some point as well. But Mohamed Salah set a high bar, and the question was, could he then repeat that feat again or exceed his FPL points tally in the 18-19 season after the World Cup? And he couldn't. He scored 10 less goals, and he ended up with, well, 44 less points in FPL, and he played more minutes as well. So 259 points is still amazing, but I want to I want to do some propaganda now that the decline had already set in the second season. Mohamed Salah was hit by second season syndrome in FPL. So yeah, it's right there, right in front of you. Still 259 points is amazing, but then look what happened the season after in the 1920 season when Liverpool won the Premier League, and it was a COVID hit season as well. His goal tally got reduced by 3 goals, got less assists as well. Obviously, he had less minutes in the 1920 season as well, but at 233 points, and I'm just to remind myself what was his price tag actually as well during those seasons. So yeah, 12 and a half. Started at 12 for that 1920 season, ended up at 12.9 million. So hefty price tag still, but the decline is if the decline wasn't present in the second season, in the third and fourth seasons, it was becoming more apparent. And then 2021, he gets even less points, plays more minutes, okay, scores a few more goals, but his assists completely dry up. And yeah, he was still perma captain Mohamed Salah. But look at that. In the space of 4 seasons, when he's banging in 300 plus points in FPL, his output in terms of attacking returns has reduced from 44 attacking returns to 28. And obviously, in that period, Liverpool have bought different players, they've sold different players, but yes, Mohamed Salah is still the perma captain Egyptian king running down the wing, but he's scoring less points. So I guess the trend we're seeing here when we back project is Mohamed Salah is in decline as an FPL asset. And I do want to say that Mohamed Salah has been in decline as an FPL asset since the 17-18 season. That's what I want to say, basically, without getting in trouble. Look, it's right in front of you. You can see it right on screen. Okay, 21-22 season, he finally is able to turn a corner and score more points for the first time in what 1, 2, 3 in for the first time in 4 seasons. His FPL points tally increases, the number of goals increases, and the number of assists increase as well. But what was that down to? That was down to an exceptional start in the first half of the season when he was getting all those goals, all those assists. Then he goes to AFCON and he's broken. He loses in the final, and he's just not been the same FPL asset. Yeah, there were exceptions. He got a brace against United in the second half of the season, double game week 26, where triple captainers like me got 84 points for Mohamed Salah. But those were really exceptions to the rule. And you can almost say that 206, I mean, at one point, people were speculating last season before AFCON, he could have scored 300 plus points again. That was a real option, 350 points potentially as well, albeit that was a bit more hopeful. But yeah, he just pretty much stopped scoring. He really should have broken the 300 barrier once again in 21-22. But the reality is that mentally, maybe something isn't right. At the same time, age is probably catching up with him as well. He's out of form. That hasn't helped as well. And as we can see there, his decline has basically been very gradual. And from being very gradual And looking at his age, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is he Mohamed Salah's 31 years old? So he's not getting any younger. And yeah, I mean, this season in particular, there's been matches. I'm not one to. Oh, he's 30 years old. I beg your pardon. He'll be 31 in June. He's not getting any younger, and there's been matches where his XG isn't matching what his actual output is. In fact, I think his XG hasn't been that great as well this season to top a lot of things off. So I wanted to do this segment. I was going to do this as a standalone video, but I thought I'd get a lot of backlash from those that hold Mohamed Salah in high regard. So yeah, there you have it. Mohamed Salah is an FPL asset in decline, and that's been the case for the past 5 seasons. And look at his ownership, 26% overall in the game, when it's been so much more higher. I mean, it was more than 50% at the start of the season, and it's more than cut in half now. Yeah, 45 points going into game week 11. He's just a shadow of his former self, unfortunately. Just not, just not happy with him at all. Just trying to get his up. Where are his points? Yeah, there we go. Like 2 goals and 4 assists. And his last goal in the Premier League was against United. And even that was questionable to some degree as well. But there you have it. Mohamed Salah, a fantasy Premier League asset in decline. But if you disagree, let me know in the comments below or on the live chat. And I think I'll come on to some questions before I go on to another segment. So here we go. So this is more of a point by Keith. The squad will be announced on the 20th of October for England. So it looks like Maddison will need to play out of his skin in the next 2 game weeks to get a call up, which unfortunately, I think for him, it looks highly unlikely. He's only had 1 England cap, surprisingly. I thought he would have had more by now, but he's just not been trusted by Gareth Southgate. So it seems highly unlikely. But then the hope is that he'll play above and beyond for the next 2 game weeks, and if he doesn't get selected, will he have the same output? Who knows? But you'd hope at least in the next 2 game weeks he'll have enough in the tank to show Gareth Southgate something. And just going on to, so another question on Perisic, will he start? I have absolutely no idea, not a clue. I am gonna start him because it's Everton. I really hope he does he does start and gets a double-digit haul with a clean sheet and plenty of goals and assists. It would be silly to bench him and even to sell him in that Everton fixture. So yeah, if you've got him, definitely start him. If you don't have him, probably not worth buying him. Questions come in on the DMs about Son. Does it make sense to sell Salah for Son? I would say that that could be an option, and it really depends if you're willing to take that risk. So is it a big risk? Who's likely to score more goals or points? Is it a one-off transfer? In my case, I'm willing to, just for 1 game week, sell Mohamed Salah because his value's dropped anyway, so I'm not going to lose any money on him. And potentially I could buy Son, or I could sell Salah to get like a Zaha in, sell De Silva, and then get another 7.0 or 6.8 play like a Rashford potentially into the team, so I could upgrade it in 2 ways. But then my other frustration I have, or frustrations, is that Reece James is a yellow flag, Mitrovic is a yellow flag as well. So it kind of feels for me right now, selling Salah and another midfielder is definitely a luxury move. So unless I get some concrete information that Reece James won't start or Mitrovic won't start, it might very well be that I end up keeping Mohamed Salah for game week 11, and then I end up selling James for Chilwell, most likely, and then Mitrovic for Tony. It might be those moves that I do just for game week 11. One-off moves if I'm going to wildcard in blank game week 12, which they aren't the worst moves in the world. But then the frustration I'll have is I've got to absorb potentially another Mohamed Salah blank. And I'm looking at that game, and we haven't even previewed the games actually for game week 11, which I'll come on to in a moment. And in fact, let me stop sharing my screen and get the preview up in a moment. So yeah, before I start talking about the Liverpool game, we'll start off with a Friday night match. Just going to open up a stats table as well for my own private viewing. Okay. So yeah, Friday, first match of the game week. We've got Brentford against Brighton. Both teams have had, well, in the case of Brighton, more than a reasonable start. Brentford only 2 wins in the first 9, but they're still 11th in the league, surprisingly, and they're just a place behind Liverpool, but Liverpool have that game in hand. I kind of feel that I still need to see how this Brighton team are going to cope in the post-Potter era, but then looking at how they've done without him, it's not been that bad at the moment. I can see that this game, I'd be very surprised if it's like ends up goalless. If I expect both teams to score goals there. So for me, it's either a draw or it's a Brighton win, and I kind of feel I'm edging towards a Brighton win here. Am I? No, I'm calling it a draw. I'm calling this a draw, even though I think Brighton can win this match. I feel that Brentford should have enough to prevent them winning. So Friday night match, that's a draw from my point of view. Then coming on to Saturday with the lunchtime kickoff, got Leicester against Crystal Palace. I've heard that Leicester, one of their defensive assets, is potentially injured for this game. And then with Crystal Palace, they're okay. With Palace, they tend to be more like attacking when it comes to when they play at home at Selhurst Park. And also, the thing that really surprised me actually with Crystal Palace, for some reason, I thought they were having a better run of form, but they haven't won in the last 4 games. And with Leicester, obviously they're still in the relegation zone. Only that one win on the Monday night from just over a week ago, but it's a tough one. It'd be easy for me to call this a draw. I just don't know what Leicester have to offer in this match. So I'm going to call this, I think, a draw, which I could potentially see, either team winning this, but I think they'll just cancel each other out in terms of their attacking prowess. I can see, Maddison having some goal involvement, even Zaha. So yeah, let's call that a draw. Nice and easy prediction there. Coming on to Fulham against Bournemouth. Again, Bournemouth, who I still keep on thinking about how Liverpool battered them 9-0 early in the season, and Bournemouth are 8th in the Premier League, 2 places ahead of Liverpool with a minus 12 goal difference, and Liverpool have a plus 8 goal difference, which I still find bizarre. In my mind, Bournemouth are like in the bottom 3 of the Premier League, but no, they're not. They're 8th. So against Fulham, who are 9th and have got 3 wins so far, I think it really depends on, is Mitrovic fully fit for this match? That's the key thing for me. And the fact we've not had any news, like in FPL, no news isn't necessarily good news. So again, I'll do another boring prediction. I'll call this a draw. Reluctantly, I think they'll cancel each other out. But if Mitrovic is fully fit, I can see that Fulham would be more than capable of winning this game. I just hope that the one player I don't want getting anything from this match is Dominic Solanke. I've just seen too much on my timeline about Dominic Solanke. So yeah, let's call that a draw as well. Coming on to Wolves against Nottingham Forest, which this is a bottom of the table fixture. In the case of Nottingham Forest, they're just not having any. Well, both teams have only got one win in their 9 games this season. I know Diego Costa has joined, and I think Wolves are expecting a fair bit from him, but I kind of feel that, is his fitness still up to speed? Has he still got enough in the tank? Who knows? Yeah, with Nottingham Forest, that minus 15 goal difference doesn't look quite healthy, but you'd expect Wolves to edge this one. I want to call it a draw as well, just so that I can say that they cancel each other out. Where's that? 1, 2. How many draws have I called? I think that's 4 draws. Yeah, let's call it a draw. Wolves and Forest will cancel each other out, and it's a draw. Just so that I've got some symmetry here, because I think I've said that the previous games are draws as well. But yeah, Wolves should edge it, but let's call that a draw. Coming to the late Saturday afternoon kickoff on Saturday, Spurs against Everton. Has to be a Spurs win. Has to be. Kane seems fit in that match in the Champions League. Son as well. No idea who's going to start in the defence and the other attacker, but yeah, you've got to say that, like, at least with a minimum 2-goal cushion, Spurs are more than capable of beating this Everton team. And then coming on to the Sunday games, Aston Villa against Chelsea. Again, Aston Villa in my mind, I felt that they had quite a few struggles at the start of the season, but then until last week they seem to have turned a corner by not losing in their previous 4 games. But with Chelsea, who are on a great streak themselves, actually, with 4 wins in 5, you have to say that's a Chelsea win. Maybe a narrow win, but yeah, that's definitely a Chelsea win there. It's almost like a playoff for future England manager to some degree as well. Gerrard against Potter, but who knows? But no, that's a Chelsea win. So there we go. The draw. Well, I kind of finished the draw conundrum, but yeah, definitely not a draw in that context at all. And then coming on to the 2 o'clock kickoffs. Oh, there's 3. Didn't expect that. Leeds against Arsenal. Arsenal have a fantastic amount of form that they've shown with 8 wins from 9. Leeds won't be an easy game, especially at Ellen Road, but I'll call that an Arsenal win. It might be a narrow Arsenal win, but they should be more than capable of beating Leeds. And if they can't beat Leeds, then I'm going to question their credentials for challenging for the title, I guess. But yeah, it has to be an Arsenal win. United against Newcastle United. United against United. I think that'll be a fairly close match. I can see. It's a tough one. I mean, Newcastle, we've had 5 draws, and United haven't even drawn a match this season. I want to call that a draw. I think United have the Europa League commitments. Newcastle don't. United should, on paper, beat this Newcastle team, but I feel that with the run of form that we've shown, okay, there's been perhaps, I say run of form. United have won their last 3 games, and we've lost 1 and we've drawn 2. Let's call it a United win, reluctantly. A very narrow United win, just due to form. Yeah, let's do that. And then the last 2 o'clock kickoff, Southampton against West Ham. Again, Southampton, in my mind, they're struggling in the league. And to be fair, they'd lost 4 games in a row until their recent win. And West Ham and its Europa League Thursdays doesn't always bode well. I'm going to call that a draw. I think West Ham are capable. If had it not been a Europa League Thursday, and obviously I know West Ham rotate their players a fair bit as well. Yeah, it's a narrow. I was going to say narrow draw. It's a draw. I think West Ham are capable of beating Southampton, but I'll call it a draw just because of the Europa League match. And then coming on to the main event, which is Liverpool against Man City. There's only one clear favourite here, and it's Man City. The fact is, Liverpool are riddled with defensive injuries. There's no Trent. I think Matip is unavailable. Some other players for Liverpool will be unavailable as well. And with City, okay, they might concede in this match, but the firepower that they've got with Foden, De Bruyne, Haaland, and so many other players in their squad, they will roll over Liverpool at Anfield. And it's not a question of if City will beat Liverpool, but by how many. And are Liverpool going to go on the attack? Liverpool cannot afford to just sit back and defend this game. They will have to attack. They'd have to leverage Mohamed Salah, leverage Nunez, leverage Jota in the right way. And they had that four-pronged attack last week, which I wouldn't say that really worked that well. But then they did the subs and that kind of fixed, I think, some things up. But there is no scenario with the current crop of Liverpool players where I could say Man City are going to lose this game. Okay, if there's a sending off for Man City early on, that might change things potentially. But this is a Man City win, easily done against this Liverpool team. You can't. There's a part of me that thinks that Nunez had obviously the 3-match ban, and it's only a question of what could have been with him and the momentum he would have got if he didn't get the red card, and then could he have been like Liverpool's Haaland? I still feel there's so much more to come from Darwin, and big matches like this will tell us a lot in terms of what he's capable of. If anyone's going to score at the moment, I think Darwin definitely could be one to get goal involvement, if not for Liverpool in this match, in the subsequent matches. And one of the wildcard options that I've contemplated is if I do sell Mohamed Salah, be it in this game week or during the blank, that I would want some sort of Liverpool cover, and Nunez could be a potential option. So I'll be keenly watching him in this match to see how he does. The worry is that he's got that that red card still in his locker potentially, but let's hope let's hope he becomes a fantasy option for me, I guess. So I see I've got some more questions that have come in through the DMs as well, and I'll come on to them also on the YouTube stream. So I've kind of mixed things up here. My apologies. So yeah, I'll split it. The timestamps, I'll put it as Q&A 1 and Q&A 2. So a question that's come in: how do you evaluate and strategize when considering medium length punts? Let's use Liverpool attackers from game week 13 to 16 as an example. Jota, Darwin, Salah, Firmino. What matters most to me? So some people, that's a good question. Some people will say it's all about fixtures. Others will say it's just about form. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Clearly, Liverpool have a good run of games coming up, and they really have to win those games if they want to be in with a chance of getting Champions League football next season. Like for them, finishing 4th this season will be like finishing first, to be perfectly frank. And they can't afford any more slip-ups in the Premier League. They really can't. And I'm looking at Liverpool's run of games. I don't want to deviate from the question, but looking at Liverpool's run of games between, blank game week 12 to the World Cup, West Ham at home, Forest away, Leeds at home, Tottenham away, Southampton at home. Yeah, and Southampton at home. They should be more than capable of getting at least, let me just counting off my head here, 4 wins out of 5 easily. That's like a par expectation, from my opinion. So for me, it's a case of who's going to offer me the most value as a Liverpool attacker. Jota, who as a midfielder last season offered exceptional value. That's why I had him for large chunks of last season. But then I look at how he's been this season. Obviously, I know he was injured initially as well, and he wasn't really an option for us. I'm just looking at his stats actually. Just going to sorted by Liverpool clean sheets. Let me just flip this. Oh, there he is at the bottom. Yeah, the concern with Jota is rotation. Because if he's well, firstly, where is he going to play in that Liverpool team? Like as an I don't say out and out striker, but as someone leading the line, if he was to do that, you've got Firmino there as well. You've got Nunez, like you kind of feel that he's got the number one. I say number one spot, but like he's the main person who you'd expect to lead the line for Liverpool. And in game week 9, he had a cameo appearance, but I'm assuming that may have been due to, was it an international break the week before, a few days before, I think it was. So let's exclude that. I mean, I'm just looking at Nunez's adventure in the Premier League. He got a goal and assist, then got sent off, 3-match suspension. Then he had a game against Everton. He blanked. Game week 7 and 8 obviously didn't exist for him. Game week 9, 1-point cameo, and then he gets that goal against Arsenal in game week 10. So he's had a very, like, let's just say, a roller coaster ride in FPL at the moment. So I think, like with him, if there is an attacker, he's the one that interests me the most from Liverpool. And I would, yeah, Salah is an option. Roberto Firmino, I just couldn't. I really couldn't fathom getting him because of the minutes, because that's another factor as well. That who's going to get the most number of minutes from Liverpool attackers between now and game week 16? And you'd have to say that Nunez and Salah would be right up there. But then you look at Nunez's price and you look at Mohamed Salah's price, there's a massive price difference there. And yeah, what is it, almost a £4 million price difference. So for me, form is a factor as well. Like, yeah, I mean, Salah's had mixed form. Nunez has shown form when he's had opportunities to play, but also getting bang for my buck, really. That, you'd expect Salah to do so much more as a medium to long term option. But you're saying medium to long term, but we're all going to get unlimited transfers during the World Cup. So how I see it, it's more of a short term option from those picks. And I would say that, like, from all those players that you mentioned, it really comes down to Salah or Darwin for me. And I feel that Darwin could offer the most value in those upcoming game weeks because he can unlock funds and spread that money elsewhere. Another question that's come in: has Potter decided to take it upon himself to keep Pep Roulette going? Are all Chelsea assets too risky to own going forward? So yeah, that has been a bit of a frustration. I mean, you say Pep Roulette. I mean, uh, Tuchel was rotating a fair bit as well, which kind of went under the radar. If I'm not mistaken, I think Chelsea rotated far more in some areas than City last season. Like, from the Chelsea perspective, am I gonna buy Aubameyang for 9 million? I'm probably not. Am I gonna buy Sterling for 10 million? Probably not at the moment. The reality is that for Chelsea assets, it's really been about James or Chilwell pretty much since the start of last season. Lukaku, unfortunately, just couldn't adapt to the way they played, which was annoying because he seemed to have offered promise. But yeah, rotation is a bit of a risk. And interestingly enough, I completely didn't realise this. Chilwell didn't even get any minutes in that Wolves match. Again, I was listening on the radio. I just assumed that he had played. So I guess I was saying how straightforward it was to potentially sell James to Chilwell. Well, definitely not. Oh no. Just looking at the options, and I mean, I'm just sorting by minutes played here at the moment for Chelsea to see, who are the options, and even the goalkeeper situation. It's a bit of a worry because, Kepa obviously has been playing games of late, but then Mendy could come back in the frame at any minute, and to my surprise, Thiago Silva has had the most number of minutes, but then he didn't play against Wolves. Oh, it's a complete nightmare. I'm just looking at these Chelsea assets. Havertz, no way would I consider him. Rotation, they're all rotation risks. Cucurella, he played against Wolves, but then didn't play against Palace. Yeah, it's a complete nightmare. Well, do you know what? If I had to pick one player as a James replacement now, I'd want to pick Chilwell, but then maybe Cucurella as the option because he can play more centrally as well as playing on the flank. Playing out wide, and he costs 7.7 less than Chilwell. So that is a real frustration. So yeah, you wouldn't definitely want to double up. I just really hope that James is fit because James offers so much, and I'll be gutted if he isn't available. But yeah, other than James, you're kind of clutching at straws in the Chelsea assets that are available. So another question: Salah played down the middle when he came on in the Champions League. Will he play more centrally on Sunday? It's a really good question. There was a lot of complaints by a lot of FPL managers that since Mane has left, and also with the way Liverpool are playing with the current crop of players, that Salah has been very, shunted out wide significantly, and that's clearly been a problem for his attacking returns. I'm not sure if that's the only reason why he's been underperforming this season, but him playing centrally, in fact, I'm going to bring up a stat for you on that particular topic because there are some players that when they play centrally, they offer some interesting results. And let me just get this up. I'm going to go on the transfer market website actually, and I'd recommend that website because they show positioning and how players have performed playing in certain positions. So let me just get this up and I'll then share my screen. So let's go to Mohamed Salah for all seasons. And I just want to add to this Mohamed Salah debate that a lot of people said, he hasn't been the same since AFCON. I'd also argue that Liverpool and Salah have not been the same since Mane has left. He has been a massive loss because you've had those game weeks in the past where okay, if Salah has blanked, you've got Mane who's chipped in with a goal time and time again for Liverpool, and it kind of seems that obviously they got Diaz in during the halfway point of last season, but it's just not the same. It really isn't. Okay, I've got this very interesting stat now to answer that question on Mohamed Salah, and this will come as a surprise for some, but I really hope that I say I hope this looks very interesting. I want to share this with you all. So it's transfermarket.co.uk, really good for underlying stats, positional stats, head records, and so much more. So in fact, I'm going to zoom in slightly just to make sure I don't break the screen. There we go. So what you're seeing here is Mohamed Salah's stats in different positions and how he's performed. So obviously, mainly deployed as a right winger, quote unquote. We say right winger, but we know what they mean by that. He's scoring a goal every other game and getting a fair amount of assists as well. And then in that central position, is he playing as a centre forward? I didn't watch the Rangers match. I'm assuming he played up top centrally. And in that point, in that instance, when he is playing that way, 39 times, according to Transfer Market in his career, 33 goals, 11 assists. You just look at again, I'm not trying to say that um, compare that to the right wing aspect of his goals and assists, but that looks really interesting that he's averaging more than a fantasy return every time he plays down the center. And then look as a second striker, 6 in 20 goals, left side 6 in 19, attacking midfield 4 in 12. So I think that definitely is food for thought actually. For those in the YouTube chat, let me know what you think about that. And I just want to actually click on here, the 33 goals in 39 games. I want to see what that brings up actually. The fact Liverpool did so well against Rangers, and obviously, Rangers, different kettle of fish to Manchester City, but you'd think that that will come into Klopp's reckoning as well. So yeah, here we go. So according to this, that does include, it's not just Premier League, it's Champions League as well. So you can see the hat trick there in the Champions League, and then just make sure I've got this right here. That's quite interesting. So it's saying here that prior to the Champions League hat trick, the last time he was playing centrally in the Premier League was during the 2021 season. 3 goals, 4 assists. 2 goals in 3 in the 1920 season in the Premier League. 18-19 season, 12 goals and 30. I completely forgot that he was playing centrally then. So in that instance, he's got 18 attacking returns in 13 games. That's quite interesting. 2 goals and 3 in the 17-18 season. I'm just going to go further back. Serie A. So it's very clear that, and then all the way back to the 11-12 season, that we played a game centrally as well. But it's very clear to me, not obviously for different reasons. I can see why they haven't deployed him centrally more often. But looking at these stats on transfer market, Mohamed Salah has done really well playing down the middle. And I don't want to second guess Klopp, and I have no idea who was playing on the right wing for Liverpool in the Champions League, because like I said, don't really pay attention to Champions League matches at all, really. But if he is playing centrally against Man City, perhaps he's got a chance to score, according to that previous screen that I showed. So yeah, no, thank you for bringing that to my attention, and I really hope that from an FPL perspective, he does play centrally, and if I keep him, I hope he scores. Question from FPL Zaha: is there any news on Robertson? And that's something I've been looking out for as well. I've not seen anything concrete on whether Robertson is fully fit at the moment, and clearly Liverpool are missing him. And if it is the case that Liverpool don't have Matip, they don't have Robertson, they don't have Trent against Man City, they're going to struggle really badly, really badly. It's just not good enough having Van Dijk and Alisson in that team. And yeah, can Gomez do a job? Probably, but then you've got with Konate, it's not the same. So the yeah, I don't think I've not heard anything positive on Robertson as of yet. I might be wrong, but if he's not playing, that'll be a massive miss. And yeah, I mean, on the topic of Haaland, hauling against Liverpool, I think that could definitely happen. And I did contemplate, like for captaincy, for those that haven't watched my captaincy polling video, it's right at the top of the. In fact, am I able to pin this? Oh, I can't do that. In fact, can I start this? There we go. So I've basically shown that for captaincy, Haaland is the EO captain once again. If you want to look at the percentages and what I project, you can check out the video, and I'll post the video in the description as well after the stream ends. But it's clear that Haaland will be captained by almost the same number of managers in the Elite 1000 that captained him against Southampton. And that's quite remarkable. Southampton on paper is meant to be the easier fixture. Liverpool's meant to be the far trickier fixture, but we know that the way Liverpool was set up against Arsenal, they just cut through them like a knife through butter. And that's Arsenal obviously had a fantastic start to the season. And that's just Arsenal doing that, scoring 4 goals against them. Goodness knows what Man City can do. And this Man City team can be absolutely ruthless. I've got no doubt that Liverpool can potentially score. They might score the first goal. They might score to equalise. But, when Foden is playing the way he's playing, De Bruyne with those passes into Haaland, it's going to be quite interesting, and it will be. I want to say it will be a shock if um, Haaland doesn't score against Man City. Like it's a question of how many. Um, and just just a point on Robertson from FPL Buna. Shout out to Team South legend there. Robertson is apparently he came off the bench against Rangers, so guessing he'll be back. Thanks for that tip off. Yeah, I had no idea, didn't follow that match, but yeah, that's a positive sign if he's come off the bench. They're going to need him, as I've mentioned. So let's see what happens. But even with Robertson back, then you haven't got Trent Alexander-Arnold, you haven't got Matip. You know, Matip was so fantastic for Liverpool last season. He was was he their best player last season in the second half? Almost certainly. You know, I think the case was definitely there, but it's not going to look good for Liverpool. If Man City turn up and play the way they play, I think Liverpool will struggle. Like I've said, Liverpool can't sit back in this match. They have to go out and attack, and it might be a case of they'll score goals, but it might be a defeat in vain. But they've got to give a good showing. So and Mohamed Salah, he's got to be at his best. And to that person who asked about this, playing centrally with the stats that I showed, if he is playing centrally, I hope he definitely gets some type of goal involvement. Just coming on to the questions in the DMs, my apologies, I've completely neglected them. Would you buy Dominic Solanke? No, I wouldn't. I don't know, like berate Dominic Solanke. To be fair, I've just seen so much propaganda on Twitter for Dominic Solanke. I know he's 5.7 million or whatever he is, but I just can't fathom buying him at all at the moment. And I say that he's gonna like go on a fantastic run of games now, but like his goal scoring record in the Premier League isn't great. I know that with Bournemouth he's guaranteed to get regular starts. He's only scored 1 goal this season, and then he got the 2 assists against Leicester. But then against Leicester, pretty much anyone can score against them except for Forest. But then look at the run of games for Bournemouth: Fulham away, capable of scoring; Southampton at home, capable of scoring; West Ham away on a Monday night, capable of scoring; Tottenham at home, I'd say, yeah, capable of scoring; Leeds away, capable; Everton at home, capable. So, Bournemouth do have a good run of games, and I might need to eat some humble pie if I put him down. But could I get him potentially on a wild card? I mean, joking aside, I think if I had to unlock funds and I wanted a third striker, I would consider getting him in. But then I look at the goals. There's no goals there. I mean, like if I wanted to spin a picture here, he first, played. Not he. There's no goals. He's like was that 5 Premier League goals in his entire career. Obviously, he was younger. Things were different. Totally get that. But I think these next few games will be a massive litmus test for him. He's more than capable on paper getting goal involvement in all of these games between now and the World Cup. So yeah, I don't want to put him down. Do you know what? He is an option. If you're a manager that goes by fixtures rather than form, then definitely contemplate getting him in without a doubt. Another question that's come in: what are your thoughts on Brighton's defenders? Need one as a substitute for Patterson? Yeah, I mean, look, Brighton's defenders. It's I just can't contemplate really getting any of these 4.5 defenders when they've reduced the price of other defenders in the game like this season. And it's kind of I think that's been one of the like knock-on effects that the 4.5 defenders almost seem like non-existent in FPL this season. And then you look at Brighton's fixtures. Okay, fair enough. Good run of games between now and game week 16 for the World Cup. But I mean, who did you get? Lewis Dunk. He's 4.6 now. But then Brighton haven't even kept any clean sheets since game week 4. And I know that there are some people who bought into this Estupinan hype who barely started for them. But I can't really endorse getting a Brighton defender right now. I mean, if you want a Brighton attacker, Trossard, definitely contemplate getting him in perhaps. But the goalkeeper situation might be different. You know, Sanchez, could I get him in? Probably as a budget option. But there's not really an attacking Brighton defender that really appeals to me. I'm just looking at the points. Veltman 1 last 4 games. I would say to you, Milos, you've asked that question, and I don't want to say Palace have been significantly better than Brighton, but consider getting a Palace defender perhaps. Is Jordan Pickford the best goalkeeper for people wildcarding game week 13? What do you think? So yeah, I mean Pickford actually, to be fair to him, well, I was going to say to be fair to him, he's only kept 1 clean sheet this season. I don't know. For some reason, I thought he'd kept more clean sheets. 1 clean sheet. How on earth can he be the best goalkeeping option when he's not shown any form? Obvious. Okay, let's go to Tottenham away, Newcastle away. Let's come to game week 13. Palace at home, Fulham away, Leicester at home, Bournemouth away. Okay, they are a good run of games. He'll really want to put in a good innings in those games for the World Cup to, I was going to say, nail down his #1 spot for England, but the reality is, like, is Pope going to oust him after his showing in the Nations League? Definitely not. The only goalkeeper that could potentially offer a serious threat to Pickford's #1 jersey for the World Cup would be Ramsdale, but even him, clean sheet wise, he hasn't been that great. I kind of feel that with Pickford, especially in an England shirt, he's a completely different player. So yeah, I digress slightly, but if you want to wildcard in 13, yeah, perhaps get Pickford at 4.5 million, but it's fixture over form if you're if you're of that persuasion, I guess. So if you fancy it, why not? But yeah, he is an option. Look, joking aside, he's an option. But at the same time, I look at the other goalkeepers. I'm going to sort this out actually by points per million. Well, not points per million. Clean sheets. Just have a quick look. Okay, Nick Pope's run of games are actually trickier. Yeah, Pickford could be an option potentially. I've not, from my perspective, actually, I need to think about that because if I'm going to wildcard in 12, I need to at least look that far ahead. And then yeah, Gator is it Gator? Gator? I don't know. He's an option. Like Wolves at home in 12, Everton away, Southampton at home, West Ham away, Forest away. I think, if you don't want to get Pickford in, he's an option at 4.5 million as well. FPL Zaha, you're asking, have I bought Wilfred Zaha? I don't like to reveal my team before a deadline, as you know, but I haven't bought him as of yet. He's definitely on my radar, but it's really a question of I've got this jigsaw puzzle, like I mentioned at the start of the stream, where James is flagged, Mitrovic is flagged, and I've got Mohamed Salah still. So there is a scenario in which I could get Zaha in if I sell Salah, sell De Silva, and get Zaha and another 6-ish, 7-ish million pound midfielder. And if I don't get Zaha in game week 11, I'll almost certainly get him in blank game week 12 if I activate the wild card and if I want to attack blank game week 12. So I think that's definitely an option there. Just have a look here. Just give me one moment. So just have a look there. Okay. Sorry, I need to do another quick timeout and share my screen for something else for those that have just joined the stream. As I've mentioned time and time again, I'm not here for your money. I'm not here for your love and hugs. I just want your likes, comments, shares, and subscribes. Help me in beating the algorithm by doing one of those things. I would really appreciate, especially subscribers. To be very honest with you, I found it very hard getting into YouTube. It's not something that I am a pro at, and it's not something that has come naturally to me. I've probably joined the YouTube scene very late. I began doing like YouTube streams back in 2016 when literally almost no one in FPL was doing them, but I didn't know how to do the technology back then. And it was someone else with an OBD connection, did their own thing, and then that person decided to stop doing it, and then I stopped doing YouTube streams, and then I well, I wouldn't say it's a stream, but then I began Twitter Spaces last season. But then the problem with Twitter Spaces was that firstly you're disrupting people by appearing at the top of their timeline, which annoys them and they start muting you, which isn't good. Um, but also with Twitter Spaces, you know the sharing element is quite limited. I love the fact that on a YouTube stream, I can share my screen, I can show different things in real time, and yeah, I can share videos and do so much more as well. I need to flip on my camera at some point as well, which I haven't done. I'll do that as well, don't worry. But like I'm just doing this on my own like accord. I've got nothing to prove. It's just something that I'm really keen to do because I feel there are topics that people do not talk about within the FPL Twitter sphere, which I feel well, I say YouTube sphere as well, which need to be talked about. Like, you know, the EO captaincy EO videos, I'm literally doing them. I know they hardly get any likes, and I'm not even doing them for the likes. I'm doing them because I have a passion for EO, and I want to amplify that message about the ramifications if you go against EO. And if you know if you go against it, it's completely fine. But I just like it that no one else is doing those kind of videos, and it's something that I'm able to do, and it's very niche. And so what if only a handful of people watch them regularly? Even if they benefit a handful of people on a regular basis, that's more than enough for me. I'm not here to get like 10k 20k views per video. That boat has sailed. Yeah, so like I like keeping it fairly niche, and yeah, if you're able to like, comment, share, or subscribe, I'd really appreciate that. So on that note, let me just see if there's any more questions, and then I'll wrap up for tonight. Just get this here. Yeah, and if you don't want to put your questions in through the YouTube chat, you're welcome to DM me. I've had a few questions that come in beforehand and also during the stream as well. So let me just have a quick check. Another thing that I've actually not talked about that I was keen on talking about is points per million, but there's probably not enough time to talk about it because I'm going to wrap up. But let's have a quick look. Sorry, just going on the questions really quickly. Yeah, I've got a question on captaincy. Yeah, I've posted my captaincy video in the YouTube stream at the top, and I'll put it in the description. So that kind of answers that question there. So I won't be talking about captaincy anymore. Another question on getting in Son. Yep, we've kind of addressed that on the stream as well. So feel free to check out the stream on playback. Final question that's come in about, was it Firmino? What are my thoughts? We kind of talked about Firmino at the earlier segment as well, that risk of managed minutes. There might be the odd match where Firmino will bang, but I feel that in terms of value, Nunes could offer more potentially. So I don't think Firmino is really an option for me from an FPL perspective, and he hasn't been really for quite a long time. So I guess on that note, I'll probably wrap up. Yeah, just keep in mind that we've got blank game week 12 around the corner, and I shared that poll, and we looked at what the options are potentially for those that have a wild card or don't have a wild card. So I'll leave you to it. And look, wishing you all the best for game week 11 and blank game week 12. And as always, your support is greatly appreciated. Take care and all the best, everyone. Have a fantastic time. Bye.